Try it right now. Run your fingers along your own ribs. Nothing. No squirm, no giggle, no panic. But let someone else do the exact same thing. Suddenly, your whole body short-circuits. Same fingers. Same ribs. Same nerves. Completely different reaction. That is genuinely strange. And the reason isn't really about your skin. It's about your brain. More specifically, it's about a tiny prediction machine inside your skull that is quietly running every second of your life. The better question isn't why does tickling feel ticklish? The better question is this: why does your brain decide some touches are a threat and others are just you? Because here's the thing, tickling isn't really a sensation. It's a verdict. Your brain is constantly asking one question about every touch. Did I cause this, or did something else? When the answer is, I caused this, it shrugs. When the answer is, something else caused this, it lights up like a fire alarm. That's the entire trick. To understand it, you have to meet a small, unglamorous part of your brain called the cerebellum. It sits at the back of your skull, tucked under everything else, looking a bit like a second mini-brain. Most people think it just handles balance and coordination. It does much more than that. Your cerebellum is a prediction engine. Every time you move, it quietly forecasts what that movement is going to feel like before you even feel it. Lift your hand toward your face. Your cerebellum has already simulated the weight, the angle, the way your fingertips will brush your cheek. By the time your hand actually arrives, the sensation has been pre-approved. Old news. Boring. Scientists sometimes call this an efference copy, a little internal duplicate of the command your brain just sent to your muscles. That copy is used to predict the incoming sensation, and if the prediction matches reality, your brain dials the feeling way down. This is why you don't feel your tongue right now, until I mention it, and suddenly you do. This is why your own footsteps don't startle you, but a footstep behind you in an empty hallway absolutely does. Your brain is filtering you out constantly so it can pay attention to everything that isn't you. Now apply this to tickling. When your own fingers approach your ribs, your cerebellum has already sent the memo. Incoming self-touch. Expected location, ribs. Expected pressure, light. Fret level, 0. By the time the touch lands, the surprise has been deleted. But when someone else's fingers approach your ribs, your brain has no memo. No prediction, no advanced copy. It only has raw, unfiltered input. Something is on your skin, you didn't put it there, and you can't perfectly predict where it's going next. That mismatch between what your brain expected and what's actually happening is what we experience as ticklishness. It's basically your nervous system going, wait, I didn't authorize this. Here's where it gets weirder. Researchers have built robot arms that let people tickle themselves through a machine. When the machine moves your hand in perfect sync, you still can't tickle yourself. The prediction holds. But when they add a tiny delay, even a fraction of a second, between your hand moving and the tickle arriving, something flips. Suddenly, you can tickle yourself. A little, just enough. That tiny gap is enough to break the cerebellum's forecast, and the moment the forecast breaks, the sensation comes back. Think about that for a second. The difference between this is me and this is something else is measured in milliseconds. Your sense of self, at least when it comes to touch, is basically a timing problem. Now you might be wondering, okay, but why does the brain react with laughter and squirming? Why not just mild alarm? This is where the science gets honestly debated, so let's call it what it is, a really good theory, not a closed case. Many researchers think tickling is tied to an old defense reflex. The ticklish spots on your body aren't random. Look at where they cluster. The ribs, the armpits, the neck, the soles of the feet, the inner thighs. Those are some of the most vulnerable places on a human body. Soft tissue, big arteries, important organs sitting just under the skin. The leading idea is that ticklishness evolved as a kind of alarm system for those zones. A something is crawling on a place you really cannot afford to ignore, alert. Which would explain why the reaction is so dramatic. You don't just feel it, you flinch, you twist, you pull the area away, you laugh in a slightly panicked way. That's not a normal touch response, that's a defense. Some scientists think the laughter part comes from a different layer of the brain entirely, the social, playful layer. Because tickling, in humans, is almost always a social act. Parents tickle babies, kids tickle each other, couples tickle in that ridiculous low-stakes way. So you end up with a strange combination. An ancient threat reflex, wrapped inside a modern bonding ritual, all stitched together by a brain that can't quite predict what's happening to its own skin. Here's the strange part. There are actually two kinds of tickling, and your brain treats them very differently. The light, drifting kind, a feather on your arm, a strand of hair on your neck, is called mismatch. It usually feels itchy and unpleasant, not funny. The intense, squirmy kind, fingers in the ribs, a sibling's hands under your armpits, is called gargulasis. That's the one that triggers laughter. Mismatch you can sort of do to yourself. You can run a finger lightly down your own arm and feel a faint shiver. Gargulasis you basically cannot. The big laughter response is locked behind the "someone else is doing this" door. And your cerebellum holds the key. Well, quick pause. I'm genuinely curious about something, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Are you one of those people who's intensely ticklish, or one of those people who barely reacts at all? Because the variation between humans is huge. Some people collapse from a single poke. Others could be tickled by a small army and stay completely composed. Drop a comment and tell me which one you are. And if you remember the exact spot on your body, that's the worst. I read these and the patterns are fascinating. Okay, back to the brain. There's another weird wrinkle here, and it has to do with control. Studies suggest you're less ticklish when you feel safe and in control, and more ticklish when you don't. If you brace yourself, focus, and tell your nervous system, "this is fine," the response often dampens. If you're caught off guard, it explodes. Which makes sense if tickling really is a kind of alarm. Alarms are louder when you aren't expecting them. It also explains something almost everyone has experienced. The anticipation of being tickled is sometimes worse than the tickle itself. Someone wiggles their fingers near your ribs without even touching you, and you're already laughing, already squirming, already begging them to stop. Your brain is running the simulation in advance, predicting the unpredictable, and losing. There's something almost philosophical hiding inside all of this. The reason you can't tickle yourself is the same reason you can scratch your own itch, eat your own food, and walk without feeling every footstep like a stranger stomping on your shoe. Your brain has drawn a quiet line around what counts as you. Everything inside that line gets filtered, smoothed, predicted away. Everything outside that line gets attention, alertness, and sometimes laughter. Tickling is what happens when a part of your own body briefly slips across that line, when your cerebellum, for one reason or another, fails to claim ownership of the touch. For a split second, your own ribs feel foreign, and your nervous system reacts the only way it knows how, with a flailing, giggling, full body "what was that?" It's a little uncomfortable to realize how much of your sense of self is just very fast prediction, but it's also kind of beautiful. You are, at every moment, a brain quietly forecasting itself into existence. So the next time someone reaches for your ribs and your whole body folds in on itself in helpless laughter, you'll know what's really happening. Your cerebellum didn't see it coming. Your ancient alarm system thought a tiny predator was crawling toward something important, and your social brain decided to turn the whole panic into a joke. That ridiculous, squirming, breathless laugh isn't just a reaction. It's millions of years of survival wiring, briefly losing a game of prediction against another person's fingers. And it only happens because somewhere in the quiet machinery of your mind, there is a line between you and not you, and tickling is the rare moment you actually get to feel it. If your brain just did a small "that's wild right now," do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps tiny channels like this one a lot. Subscribe to Bodyquirk so you don't miss the next one. We're going somewhere even stranger inside your own body next time. And tell me in the comments, what's one place on your body that should be ticklish, but somehow isn't? I want to see if there's a pattern. Thanks for spending a few minutes inside your own head with me. I'll see you in the next quirk.